how can the Republican Party, even the Trump lovers, not factor in how this is going to go for the next year and a half? How can you not, as much as you might love Trump, don't you have to factor in, oh my God, we're going to spend the next year and a half mired in January 6th talk, the most alienating thing there is to independent voters in the country.
We got to preview that in 2022, Megyn. I mean, you look at all the statewide candidates who were mired the most in defending Donald Trump on the 2020 election and quote unquote election denialism, right? That the media loves to parrot. Those candidates went down in flames, right? And they tanked with suburban voters.
And it's not debatable either. I mean, this is the thing that I always find so remarkable about, I can understand defending Donald Trump, and I can understand defending him against injustice and unjust charges in two systems of justice. What I do not ever understand is how we can sort of wish cast out a different set of facts where the center of the electorate are all of a sudden very comfortable with the post-2020 behavior. They're not. It's cemented in stone. We have now an election that showed exactly what Michael was just talking about, how people feel about that. You can't undo that. That bell doesn't unring.
Let me ask you a follow-up on that, Holmes, because I think what people who back Donald Trump would say is, okay, right, we didn't win them over. We didn't win them over in 20. We didn't win them over in 22. But they didn't really have all the time of watching Joe Biden under their belts at those critical points. And now he's just been so disappointing, and now is covered himself in these ethics allegations that seem to have a lot of teeth. And so those people are gettable in a way they weren't gettable before.
Boy, it seems a lot, again, it seems like wish casting. Look, Joe Biden was not a formidable presidential candidate in 2020. Everybody sort of like in retrospect talks about how he was, perceived as this moderate. He didn't even come out of his damn basement. When he was doing rallies, he was doing circles and honking cars. I mean, there is no way that this guy inspired the kind of turnout that he did. What inspired the turnout that voted for him was Donald Trump. And I think that piece of it remains. And look, don't take my word for it. Look what happened in 2020. Look what happened in 2022. Look at where the polls are now. Look where the intensity is within the Republican and Democratic parties. And look at ultimately where those center of the electorate independents ultimately land on this question. I'm not sure that any of that piece is changeable with this sort of ubiquitous, absolutely everywhere discussion that we're having about the thing that they found most distasteful about Donald Trump. If it was about his presidential record, by the way, if it was about his presidential record, as I think Ashbrook indicated, he would win in a landslide. We'd be talking about Reagan-Mondale type numbers. It's not going to be about that. It's going to be about what we are now talking about with this case, and minds have been made up on that.
So how much of the fact that he's running away with it right now on the GOP side, guys, has to do with, okay, yes, we factored in the indictments and all that, but it would look very different after DeSantis won the sweeping victory in Florida and before the indictments, and they were close. They weren't that close, but they were within 10, 15 points, Trump and DeSantis. So how much of this situation has to do with the fact that DeSantis hasn't taken off? He hasn't. It's just like there's not a second really strong comer. It's not like people like Vivek, but he's not, right? I mean, come on. It's not going to happen. Right. He's not going to overtake Donald Trump. And they loved DeSantis, but the bloom has come off the rose a bit. And they might like Nikki Haley, but she's not really generating much buzz. And in fact, her numbers are now going down in the latest polls. Tim Scott's not even on the latest New Hampshire numbers. He's not even registering. So it's how much of this problem the GOP is in has to do with the fact that they don't have the strong underdog here to save the day coming up the ranks.
I think this first debate is going to be critical.
I kind of agree with that.
For actually having a candidate that can have a breakout moment.
So you may have heard me talk about COVID tax relief now for a while. There might be money available for you and your business right at this moment. It's not a loan. You don't have to pay it back. Listen up. Instead, government funds are already set aside meant to reward companies with 2 or more employees who stayed open during COVID. If you did the tough thing during COVID and you paid your employees during that pandemic, then you might qualify for up to $26,000 per employee at covidtaxrelief.org. The program's complicated, but no one knows more about it than the CPAs and tax experts at covidtaxrelief.org. You pay nothing up front. They do all the work and then share a percentage of the cash they get you. Businesses of all types, including nonprofits and churches, can qualify, even those who took PPP loans, and even if you had increases in your sales. Let covidtaxrelief.org help get you up to $26,000 per employee. Visit covidtaxrelief.org. That's covidtaxrelief.org, covidtaxrelief.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.